Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel and welcome to another reading vlog where I'm gonna be reading Nemesis Games. So, Nemesis Games is book 5 in the Expanse series, which is a science fiction series, and I will link the videos for the 4 previous books in the description if you want to check those out before this one. And at the end of book 4, some concerns were raised, like for the future of this world. I mean, this is set in the future, and it is set in a world where there are humans living in a bunch of the planets from the solar system, and now there is like another way to explore a lot of places. And like I said, at the end of book 4, there were some concerning news concerning possibilities for the future of this world and for the future of humanity as a whole. And so that got me very excited and also very worried for this book, but mostly very excited. And I will also be reading book 5.5, which is a novella called The Vital Abyss, in this video. And I just want to say as well that there are definitely spoilers in this video, and let's just get into it. I am literally only 30 pages into this book, and I'm already sad. Alright, so I am 176 pages into Nemesis Games, and also every single time I've said the title of this book, like in other videos when I was talking about it before reading it, I always said Nemesis Game. I never realized that there was an S. I must be blind. Anyway, I am basically 1/3 into Nemesis Games. And this book starts with a prologue where there is an attack on one of Jupiter's moons, which was called Callisto. And so there is that attack in the prologue, and we are following a boy named Philip, who is part of the attack. And then we move on and we start following Holden's crew again. And I think it is set like 1 year after that attack and pretty much 3 years after the end of book 4. And they are at the like place where the OPA people are. And they are there because their ship is very like damaged and it needs to be fixed. And so they are like unsure of what to do while their ship gets fixed, because it will take some months and they kind of need their ship to work. And we still know that like people are moving to the new planetary systems that now they have gateways to get to, like who they already were in book 4. And Fred, the guy in charge of the OPA, he is helping people get there because he's hoping that, by being helpful, once they need some kind of like galactic government, they will choose him because he's being helpful and he's not trying to stop them like Martians and Earthers are. And then, like I said, they don't really know what to do while they are waiting for the ship to get fixed. And they all start going their separate ways. So Amos decides to go to Earth because he learns that someone that he cared about has died. And Alex decides to go back to Mars because he wants to talk to his ex-wife because they just ended things very badly and he just wants to, talk with her. And so by page 30, which was when they left, I was already sad. And then it got worse because Naomi got a call from someone that she used to know, someone from her past, that said that she needed to help them. And specifically, she needed to help Philip, who is the boy from the prologue. And so she left and Holden was alone. And honestly, like when she left, it was so sad because like she had just left. And then it says, Holden sat back down because it was that or sink to the floor. He finally pulled himself out of the chair a minute or an hour later. It was hard to tell. He had almost called Amos to join him for a drink when he remembered Amos and Alex were gone too. Everyone was. Like, that is so sad. And one of the things that I love about this series is like the crew and their, found family. And yeah, honestly, that was so sad. I'm sorry if the angle like slightly changed, but someone was ringing my doorbell because I got a package. So I had to stop filming. So yeah, I am sorry. If it changed, I have no idea if it did. And also, I'm not entirely sure, but I think I was saying like how sad I was that everyone was leaving Holden. Anyway, Holden obviously is alone and sad. And then he gets a call from a journalist that he already knew previously, and she wants to talk to him. And since he has literally nothing better to do, he goes talk to her. And she shows him a video of a ship going through like the gateways to the new worlds, and it's like it goes through and that's it never comes out the other side. And she tells him that out of 400 and something ships that have gone through, 13 has just vanished, and she thinks it might be the proto-molecule doing something. And she knows that Fred has the last remaining sample of the proto-molecule, and so she wants Holden to get that sample and like activate it to try to get Miller back to ask him if the proto-molecule is doing that. But Holden doesn't want to mess with the proto-molecule again, which, fair enough, I wouldn't either. So he doesn't want to go down that route, but he wants to investigate what is happening with the missing ships. And he talks to Fred about it, and he knows that, they both know that there are some like OPA extremists, and they are the ones responsible for the attack on Callisto, like in the beginning of the book, and also another attack on Earth, or like an attempted attack on Earth. And Holden is wondering if they are also the ones doing something with those ships. And then the journalist, her name is Monica, I think, she is kidnapped. And so Holden realizes that the OPA extremists are also there at that station, and he tells Fred, and Fred like basically locks the place down. And that's where we are with that part of the story. And then with Amos, he does go back to Earth, and he learns like exactly how his friend died, and he was wondering if like she had been killed or if she had just died, because what he had been told is that she had just died of natural causes because she was like pretty old. So that was a possibility for sure, but he wanted to know if that was the whole story. But he realized that it probably was. But actually, before he does that, he is like taken to Avasarala because she's like, why is someone from Holden's crew here on Earth? And she wants to know what is happening. And like the two of them are the iconic duo I didn't know I needed, because they're so funny together. We had like a page of them, but it was so funny. And so yeah, he deals with that, and now he wants to go visit Clarissa, who was like the villain from book 2, 3, oh my god, I don't even know. But she basically wanted to like kill Holden for ruining her father's reputation. And yeah, she was imprisoned and she is now in jail, and he wants to go see her. And then Alex, he goes to Mars. He tries to talk to his ex-wife, who wants to have nothing to do with him. And so he is still there on Mars, not knowing what to do. And I don't know if he calls Bobby or if Bobby calls him, but they end up meeting. And she tells him about some military, like Martian military stuff that have been stolen and are like being sold in the black market, and they want to investigate that. And then Bobby is like attacked, and kind of so is Alex, because he gets there while she's being attacked, and he thinks that it's because they're investigating those stolen weapons. But she says that the only thing that the people asked her was like about her connection to Alex, so that is concerning. And then finally Naomi, and this is where I was like the most shocked, because she gets to the place and she's meeting the people she was supposed to be meeting. And then Philip appears and he calls her mother. And I was like, excuse me, she has a son? She has a son. So yeah, and he is part of those OPA extremists, and he like needs to get out of where he is because he's in trouble. And that is pretty much where we're at. And I am really, really loving this book. And it's funny that before reading this book, I read the Shades of Magic trilogy, and I was complaining, especially in book 2, that it was just about the characters and we weren't getting as much plot as I wanted, and that was bothering me. But it isn't bothering me at all in this book, and I guess that's just because I love these characters so fucking much. And I mean, there is definitely a plot. There are definitely things happening with like the missing ships and the stolen military equipment and all of that. There is that plot happening, which I am very interested in, but it's more about the characters and getting to know them better, like for now. And I'm also loving every second of that. And I mean, I'm loving it, but I'm also sad because one of the things that I like the most about the series, like I said, is this crew, like their family, and they're not together anymore, and that is really, really sad. And I'm also worried about the fact that Holden is investigating the missing ships and the OPA extremists, and Naomi is now having to help the OPA extremists because of her son. So I am definitely worried about that. But I have loved to see Bobby and Avasarala back because I absolutely love them both, especially Avasarala because she's such an icon. She's everything. And I'm not sure if I'm gonna like to see Clarissa because I really didn't like her. Like, she was definitely a very interesting character, but not likable. Like, I didn't like her at all. So I'm interested to see how that goes. But yeah, I am loving every second of this book. And yeah, I'm gonna read another third and get back to you. I am on page 352 of Nemesis Games. And starting off with Alex, he and Bobby were investigating like stolen military, like Martian military equipment. And after they are like attacked, they decide to go investigate like out of the station where they are. And when they are like on their ship going to the place they're going to investigate, they're actually attacked. And for like the longest time, we don't really know like what happened to them because it switches POVs to other characters. So I think I'm gonna do the same because what happens to them after is connected to other characters. So moving on to Naomi specifically. She manages to find a ship that will transport Philip and the others away from where they need to run away from. And she doesn't want to join them because she used to be with them like before working with Holden, and she like managed to escape, and she obviously doesn't want to join them again. And she is, saying that she doesn't want to join them, and then she actually gets kidnapped by the OPA, like by that group, the OPA radicals, and their leader is like Philip's dad, and he tells Naomi that he needs to show her something, like she needs to see what they have been doing and what the results are. And then we see the results at first with Amos because he has gone down to see Clarissa at the prison. And then while he's there, and like it's underground, and while he's there, they tell him that the prison has gone into lockdown because a bunch of meteors and asteroids have hit Earth. And it obviously has been like destroyed in the places that it hit, but there are also going to be a lot of other consequences. And they don't know if there are more coming, so it is in lockdown and no one can get out while it's happening. And like that happened all around the world, and it starts with like one of the guards saying a rock came down outside Morocco about 3 hours ago. And then Amos asks, someone dropped the rock on purpose? And the guard says rocks, plural. Another one came down about 15 minutes ago in the middle of the Atlantic. There are tsunami and flood warnings going out everywhere from Greenland to fucking Brazil. Every place, everywhere. We're on lockdown until we know. And Amos asks, know what? And then Clarissa is actually the one that answers. She says, if that was the last one, or if the hits are going to keep on coming. And they definitely keep on coming. And that was basically like one part of what Marco, who's like the leader of those radicals, wanted Naomi to see. And then one of the rocks actually hits on the area where that prison is, and it is kind of collapsing basically, and they have to try to make it out. And they are like running, and Amos and Clarissa and a few guards make it out like in a group together, but then they separate, and Amos goes with Clarissa, and they're trying to just survive on a pretty much destroyed Earth, and an Earth that is going to keep being more and more destroyed. And while Naomi is watching all of this go down, she's basically thinking the events in other places, things that would have been shattering on any other day, seemed footnotes to the grand thesis of destruction playing out on Earth. Yes, there had been an attempted coup on Tycho Station, but the Earth was dying. Yes, an OPA cell had taken control of the ports on Ganymede, but the Earth was dying. Yes, a battle was going on between Martian escort ships and an unknown force near the Hungaria asteroids, but Earth was dying. The sense that something vast has descended on all of humanity was inescapable. And even I was like feeling this, and obviously this is fiction, but it definitely, like, I was feeling it. And then moving on to Holden. He and Fred managed to find Monica and save her. And they arrest one of the OPA extremists, who was actually one of the people responsible for fixing Holden's ship. And then we also learned that apart from all the attacks on Earth, the ship where the Martian Prime Minister was also attacked, and then the station where Holden and Fred are is also attacked. And I mean, they managed to solve the attack pretty fast until they realized that they were not there to kill Holden or Fred. They were there to take the last sample of the protomolecule, which they managed to do. And that is obviously very concerning. And then Holden decides that he's going to meet Alex, to the place that he is. And that is when we learn that Alex is okay. He and Bobby are both fine. And they manage to save themselves and also save the Martian Prime Minister at the same time. And then they're attacked again on the ship that they are now with the Martian Prime Minister. And then they receive a message that is actually from Naomi. And the message said, "If you receive this, please retransmit. This is Naomi Nagata. Message is for James Holden. The software controlling the magnetic bottle has been sabotaged. Do not start the reactor without reloading the hardware drives from a known good source. If you hear this message, please retransmit." And so I was just nervous because Holden was going to get on the ship with Fred and people that he trusts to go meet Alex. So, you would need to start the reactor, and I was just stressing out. And pretty much the final thing that we see is Holden finally getting that message and being able to call the people that were already on the ship and telling them to shut down the reactor, and they're fine. But I was very, very stressed. And that is pretty much where I'm at, and I keep loving this book more and more. And in my first update, I said that it was more about getting to know the characters, but in this third, the plot has definitely picked up a lot. So now I'm loving both the emotional side and the plot side. And I mean, it's very exciting and also, like I said, very stressful. And Naomi is an absolute icon. And when she was talking to Marco, so basically her ex, she is talking about when she, was able to leave him and the group. And she tells him, "I walked away from you. You're such a little boy that you still can't stand it. So when your big moment came, you had to have me here to see it happen." And then he's telling her that they have the chance to find some closure between them. And she says, "Bullshit. Closure? You lost. It's closed. You only say it wasn't finished because you hadn't won yet. I left. I sacrificed everything because having nothing away from you was better than having it all and being your puppet." I was like, what an icon. And then they were talking about Holden, and she says, "Do you know why I'm with him?" And Marco says, "I assume you have a king for powerful men." And she says, "Because he is what you pretend to be." And again, what an icon. And I don't particularly care about Naomi and Holden as a couple, but I care about all of the crew's, close friendship, close relationship, almost like a family. So I care about them together, not in the sense that I ship them so much, but I care about them together because they're adorable. You know what I mean? So yeah, I love it. She was an absolute icon. I mean, I literally only have good things to say about this book. I am loving every second of it, and I'm going to finish it, and I'll tell you what happened and what I thought about it. Okay, so I have finished the book, and one of the first things we see in this last third is that Bobby and Alex are like evacuating from where they are being attacked once again. And they are evacuating with the Prime Minister of Mars, actually. And then we learn, when we're following Naomi, we learn that Marco has set up a trap for Holden. And then he also like broadcasts a message to like everyone. And he basically starts by saying, "My name is Marco Inaros, commander of the Free Navy." And I just like highlighted some of the key parts. And he's saying, "All travel between the planets of the solar system are the right and privilege of the OPA and will be enforced by the Free Navy. Reparations for the damage done by the inner planets to the free citizens of the systems will be essayed, and failure to repay them for the benefit of the full human race will be considered a criminal act. With the opening of the alien gates, we are at a crossroads in human history. The Free Navy and the society and culture of the belts are representatives of that new pathway. We will begin again and remake humanity without the corruption, greed, and hatred that the inner planets could not transcend. As of now, the gates to the other worlds are closed. The inner planet colony ships will be redirected to existing stations in our system, and the goods they carry contributed to building the strong outer planets that we have always deserved." And that's pretty much the message. And like, the thing is, this whole thing with this destruction that Marco is creating, like, I get what he wants, because like the Belters have always been treated as less by Earth and Mars. And obviously I understand what he wants, but killing, millions of innocent people is not really the way to be right. So there's that. And then Holden, like, he notices some kind of movement between Marco's ship and another ship nearby, and he wonders if it is Naomi, because from her message like before they know that she was on Marco's ship. And so he asks Alex to go check it out because he and Bobby are closer to those ships. And so they go check it out, and it was in fact Naomi. Like, she managed to escape from Marco's ship, and she was dealing with the other ship that Marco had like rigged to blow up once he got close to another ship, which was supposed to be a Holden ship. And so she was taking care of that. And Bobby actually manages to save her and get her into her and Alex's ship. So they are reunited, and then they are also reunited with Holden. And then we learned that Amos and Clarissa, like, they managed to leave Earth because they kind of stole a spaceship. And so they got to space, they got to Luna, and they met with the Vasarala, and like we got to see Amos and the Vasarala interacting again. And it was just as fun as it was before. I absolutely love them. They're an iconic duo. And then they also reunite with the rest of the crew. And then I think it's a Vasarala that is talking about the fact that the like Free Navy, as Marco calls it, now has the proto-molecule that was stolen from Fred. And Naomi says that he probably doesn't, because Marco likes to brag. And if he had the proto-molecule, like the last remaining sample of the proto-molecule, he would have definitely bragged about it. And then she's talking about like the missing ships, because there are like the stolen military ships from Mars, but there are also the ships that go missing when they like cross the ring. And so Naomi is saying the missing ships come in two flavors: military vessels from Mars that the Free Navy have now, and the colony ships that went missing on their way out to the new systems. And that makes 60, maybe 70% matches with the Free Navy ships to old military records. I can't find one match with the missing colony ships. I can't see a pattern in what systems they were going to or what they were carrying. And I don't know what hijacking them could have gained for Marco. And then she says, this was the last line before the epilogue. It's her saying, something in the ring gates is eating ships. And then we have an epilogue. And we are following like some new characters that we haven't met before. And they are like approaching the ring. And then it says, Keller fell apart. No, that wasn't right. Keller was where she had been, sitting as she had been sitting. But she was a cloud now. All of them were clouds. Sauveterre, no idea if that's how you say the person's name, but that's how I'm gonna say it, held up his hand. He could see them so perfectly, the ridges of his fingertips, the spaces between the molecules, the swirl and flow of his blood beneath them. He could see the molecules in the air, nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, all bouncing madly against each other, obscuring some more profound space between them, a vacuum that penetrated them all. And then, like, the last two paragraphs of this book were, he turned and saw something move, something else, not another cloud like himself, like the others, like matter. Something solid but obscured by emptiness of material, like a shape in the fog. Many shapes, neither light nor dark, but some other thing, some third side of that coin, passing through the spaces between the spaces, rushing toward him. And then the very last sentence of this book was, Sauveterre did not notice his death. And that was the end. And when I do videos where I read like a novella, I usually talk about the novella and then my final thoughts on this book, but honestly that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why did I do that? I don't know. So I'm just gonna talk about this book first, like everything about it, and then we're gonna move on to the novella. And so starting off with the characters, this book was definitely different because we usually follow like Holden's POV, in which we get like his entire crew and then like a bunch of other characters. I mean, usually other 3 POVs. But in this one, we only got POVs from like the 4 characters that we already knew, like the 4 characters from the like Holden's crew. And it was definitely different. And I mean, I love to get to know new characters, but I also love to follow these characters that I already loved. And I really love to get to know them better because now that we were following each one of them individually, we got to learn much more about them and their past and their personalities. And I really, really enjoy that because I really love all of them. Like, I already loved them, but now I love them even more. And I also really love the plot. Like, the first, maybe third, was more focused just on the characters and what they were going through and why they were all leaving each other, basically, going their different ways for this book. And I was really enjoying that already. And then the plot, once it like developed more, I also really, really loved that. And I was just really excited and really stressed out the whole book, but like stressed out in a good way. Like, I really wanted to know, like I was on the edge of my seat, basically. And I just always wanted to keep reading this book. Like, every time I put it down when I was like really tired, like I wanted to keep going further in the story. And I also felt like the pacing was perfect for this story. And also the plot with the Free Navy is definitely not over. And once again, that makes me very excited, but also very nervous and very stressed. And I'm also definitely very worried about the proto-molecule being like out in the world again. That is definitely concerning. But anyway, there was literally nothing I didn't love about this book. Like, I loved every second of reading this, and I am obviously giving it 5 stars. And so now let's move on to the novella, which was called The Vital Abyss. And we were following like a group of scientists that were prisoners, and we knew like from the beginning that their guards were belters. And then everything kind of changed for them when someone from Mars went there to visit. And we were following like specifically one of those scientists. And actually, like, that character we were following appeared in the epilogue of this book. And it made things make a little more sense. And we learned like what was happening to him while he was like in prison there, but we also learned about his past and how he was connected to Protogen and the proto-molecule, and like how ruthless he was and still is, and how like to him the ends justify all means. And that was honestly scary. And at first, when I started reading that novella, I was really confused because I had no idea what was happening. But then I actually really, really enjoyed it once I started to understand. I mean, none of the characters were likable, especially like the main character we were following. Definitely not likable, but that was kind of the point. And yeah, I thought the plot of the novella was really, really interesting. And it also had like connections to events that happened in previous books and kind of explained them a little bit better, which I also really enjoyed. So I also had a really good time with the novella, and I gave it 4 stars. And so yeah, that is everything for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you have enjoyed it. And if you did, give it a like and subscribe, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!